This is FightFans Radio.
Welcome to Across the Pond with your hosts, Andre Jacobs and Matt Simpson.
Welcome to Across the Pond MMA on FightFans Radio, and normally this would be Andre introducing the show, but right now we're having some problems getting Andre on the air. Hopefully we'll have him on shortly. I am joined by Erica Lewis, who's going to do a great job filling in for him. How you doing, Erica?
I'm all right. You've already put me on some really high expectations. Great job. It's been a while. It's been like 2 months since I've done my show, so this is the first time I've really been on air. So.
Well, you've been doing it for a while, so I'm sure you'll be fine.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I guess we'll get with some of the news that's currently going on in the MMA, which is the transgender fighter that just came out and is making some headlines. She's even got an article on CNN right now. What were your thoughts on Fallon Fox making that announcement?
You know, it's first off, I find it interesting how big that story has gotten, because I've actually had people post the story. I believe was it Maggie Hendricks that wrote it, or was it who's the other big female? Not Maggie Hendricks, the one that Dana White cursed out. Why can't I think of her name? Anyway,
Go ahead.
The other reporter who wrote a really, really good story about her. And friends of mine who are not MMA fans were posting about it. And I have a lot of LGBTQXRS, whatever the acronym is now, friends on Facebook. So they seem very interested in it. And it seems like there are people out there who think that by accepting this person as a woman, she should be allowed to fight other women. And I don't agree with that.
Okay, and why is that?
I think it's okay to accept her as a woman, but I think that physically she still has the biology in terms of the muscle mass as a male. I mean, I don't think there's any way to really get rid of that, is there? I mean,
well, that's what I thought as well, and then I read a couple articles on it, and I'm extremely ignorant to this, so I don't know what's factual and what's not. But what I read was that she has to take supplements in order to maintain even just the average female testosterone level, that she to be able to maintain muscle mass and stuff, she has to work 10 times harder than everybody else because of the hormones that she took to switch sexes. And so it's even more difficult for her to cardio and all of that stuff to keep it up. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't, but that's what I read as far as some of the science behind it.
Well, I mean, if that is the case, if that does end up being true, then I don't see a problem with it. But my main concern, of course, is being the fact that she may have an advantage over other women in the cage. And even though I do not like him, Dr. Johnny Benjamin, who is kind of the MMA doctor who likes to diagnose people without ever actually seeing them. But I do agree with him saying that there needs to be a little bit more research on it before, we just accept her with open arms. I'm more than willing to identify her as a woman, as a female, but the fact that she may be coming into the cage with an advantage, I think, is a concern.
Well, no, I agree, and that's initially what I felt as well. So I guess it's just going to be a wait and see, because I'm sure that there'll be testing and stuff just to make sure everybody's on a level playing field. Moving on, we had Bellator had another event this week. Fairly entertaining event. I myself wasn't surprised by the what we had as the main event and how it ended. Did you get to watch it?
No, I actually did not. I started to watch it, and I got halfway through the event, and I did not actually get to finish watching it.
Okay. Well, we had Marlon Sandro versus Kabaslayev as our main event, And Marlon Sandro has not looked like Marlon Sandro really the last, I'd say, year and a half. His
Right.
fights, he's just looked like he's off of his game. He's definitely showing some cage wear, and it really came through in this featherweight fight where he was just the best thing that he was able to land was a groin shot. And that was pretty much the story of the fight. I mean, he just was Kaspalayev kept beating him to the punch and ended up getting a TKO victory over Sandro late in the third round. But still, it's a pretty entertaining card. I mean, Brett Cooper versus Dan Kramer. Brett Cooper getting that third round knockout. Did you get to see that fight?
Yes, I did.
That was great. I mean, I'm a big fan of both these guys. I really was really looking forward to this fight. I mean, wasn't the most technical fight in the world,
No.
but it was a scrap and it was a fun fight to watch. And then Cooper with those big shots at the end to get the win was really entertaining. So disappointed in Alexandre Bezeha. That's a kid I really like, but he seems like whenever he gets inside the cage, he just kind of it must be fighter IQ. It just completely falls off the register, and he just fights really weird. I mean,
Hello?
and we have Andre back.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you just fine.
I'm hoping this lasts. I'm not sure if it will. I'm hoping it does though. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You
We're
can
talking
stop
about
asking
Bellator
if we
now.
can hear you, because we can hear you.
Alright, cool. What, are we live?
Yes, we are live.
We are.
Well, I didn't know that. Hello.
I definitely let you know we were doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and
Alright, cool.
get off and let Andre do his job, hopefully.
Well, Mr. Jacobs, glad to have you back. I was worried about you.
Did we lose him again?
I think we might have lost him again.
He has the worst internet connection. I don't know if that's a UK thing. Do they just have really terrible internet over there? Is that something that we did to them? Like,
It must be because he has all kinds of trouble, and then and usually when it's bad, it stays bad. It's not something he can usually rectify. So hopefully he's able to, and he can get back with us.
So again, I didn't get to finish watching the entire Bellator event, but I wanted to hear what your opinion is on Bellator now. Like, I really feel like since they've been on Spike, they're delivering on really decent cards. They recently launched their iPhone and iPad app, which is one of the better apps that I've seen for any MMA organization. I don't know if you've actually seen it, but it's it's got a great UI and it's very pretty and seems to function really well and isn't buggy like the UFC one. And I don't know. Do you think Bellator is making any kind of strides in terms of closing that gap between themselves and the UFC?
I don't know if they're closing the gap, but I mean, I think they've clearly established themselves as a strong number two.
Right.
If people that watch Access TVs, that they carry a lot of the other promotions, and none of them come close to what Bellator is able to do. I mean, they have entertaining fights here and there, but their stable of fighters aren't anything to really get excited about. Now, who just signed John Fitch?
World Series of Fighting.
World Series of Fighting. Now they seem to be fairly aggressive. I thought Bellator would be a little bit more aggressive with some of these UFC fighters that have been cut, but Bjorn Rebney said he was going to stay away, and I thought maybe that was a negotiation tactic, but evidently he meant what he said, and he feels that his talent scouts can find talent elsewhere, which they have. They keep bringing over these European fighters that, though they might not be UFC caliber, they absolutely give you fantastic, entertaining fights, and that's really what it's about. Is giving you entertaining fights. I mean, there's some people out there that are going to be, think they're hardcore and they want technical and they want this and they want that. As far as that goes, to wrestle and we'll see everything. But I think for the most part, people just want to see exciting fights. And like you said, that's what Bellator's been giving us here with the last few cards. They've really only had one card that I felt was kind of a letdown. Other than that, I mean, you usually have a couple finishes and guys go after each other.
Yeah, and I would actually argue that taking the top three out of the UFC's lighter weight classes, I would think Bellator's lighter weight classes are pretty much on par with the UFC's. I think a lot of those guys could come over to the UFC and give some of those, the number 4 and below a really hard time. I think they have.
I would say with their top guys, I think that's I would definitely. I think when you're talking about Pat Curran and those guys, I think they absolutely could.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but as a whole, man, Bellator has really impressed me. I mean, their numbers. Everybody said their numbers were going to fall off the charts, and they're not, blowing anything out of the water. But they're good for cable TV numbers. So we'll just have to wait and see. I hope that they can maintain their foothold and grow, because UFC needs someone to compete against them and push them to put on better cards and whatnot. And if they don't have anybody doing that, then it could be, for those that are into EA Sports, you could get the Madden effect, and we don't want that.
Right. Yeah. I can understand that completely. I'm letting you drive this puppy, Matt. Where are we going?
Okay.
Now?
Well, that sounds good to me. We're gonna move on now to UFC 158. Now we spoke off air for a second. You hadn't had the opportunity, evidently, to listen to the conference call that happened just a couple of days ago between Nick Diaz and GSP. But it was absolutely pandemonium. I mean, anytime Nick Diaz is interviewed, it's just kind of, you're not really sure where the interview's going. At some point, Nick takes over and says a bunch of stuff that usually contradicts something he said earlier, and none of it really makes any sense. But yeah. Nick really always seems like he thinks it makes sense, so you want to believe him. But as far as promoting this fight, I think the UFC's done a fantastic job. What about you?
I would agree, and especially in a fight that possibly lost some of its luster after the Carlos Condit fight with Nick Diaz, and then him being suspended. There's, some of these hardcore fans are pretty pissed off with the. They're pretty pissed off with the fact that Nick Diaz ended up number one contender, but the UFC has managed to make this an intriguing fight despite some of those setbacks. So, and Nick Diaz has managed to make it an entertaining prospect, even though, as we discussed, I think it's not. I think it's going to be a shellacking by GSP. I love Nick Diaz, and I just don't think that he's got anything that the GSP won't be able to handle.
No, and I agree, and we'll get to that when we get to the predictions, part of the 158 card. Now, they've mixed it up a little bit. We've had some guys get hurt. Rory McDonald getting pulled off the card, which was very disappointing. I was really upset to hear that. And Jake Ellenberger, Johnny Hendricks fight is not happening, so that was also super disappointing for me. That was actually one of the fights I was looking forward to the most. It still should be a really entertaining card. And as always, here at Across the Pond, we'll go ahead and we'll get into the predictions part of it. Now, Erica, I know that you said you've been off for a while, so I don't know if you would be interested in giving your thoughts on every fight. But if you would, you could just run through the card, and I'll give my thoughts. And when you want to chime in, go right ahead.
All right, let me pull up this card. I'm very excited. Actually, I was talking to somebody the other day. Not only is this card intriguing, despite some of the injuries that you mentioned, but 159 looks like it's going to be a good one. 160 for sure is going to be a good one. 161 looks like a good one. I think we've even gotten as far as 162, knowing some things about it. And I'm just, the UFC is really kind of knocking them out of the park. Okay, Andre's trying again. Andre. Are we getting nothing? Nope.
Still no Andre.
Nope, still no Andre. Worst internet connection ever. All right, so we're starting at the preliminary card that starts on Facebook, 6:35 Eastern Time. We have Ruben Duran versus George Roop, and I believe this is Roop making his debut at bantamweight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and Roop is a guy that is he's a really scrappy fighter. I mean, he's actually not a guy that's ever going to dominate any division, but at bantamweight, he's going to be pretty scary because of his height and his reach, and he's definitely got the knockout power. He can handle himself well on the ground. Like I said, he's got decent stand-up. Ruben Duran is a guy that's going to come forward and try to knock your head off. Duran's faster than Roop, so that could give Roop some problems. Cub Swanson was able to get in on Roop. I don't think that's going to be the case here, though. I think Roop will be able to keep him away from him, and Duran might try to use his wrestling, which I still don't think that's going to matter. I think Roop will be able to get back to his feet. I think Roop ends up winning this fight via TKO.
All right. I have nothing to add to that. So, TJ Dillashaw versus Issei Tamura.
Yeah, this is a really bad fight for Tamura. Dillashaw being the wrestler that he is, and he's fantastic on the ground when it comes to transitions, and I don't use that word lightly. He is fantastic, dude. The kid can move all over the place, and I think that's what we're going to see with him against Tamura. I think that he'll get him to the ground, and where Tamura is just not going to be able to do anything, and Dillashaw will either just ride out a UD, or we could see a late third round submission as Tamura begins to wear down due to Dillashaw's grappling.
I have been thoroughly impressed with TJ Dillashaw since his time on The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, he really came off as a bit of a douche on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah, and it was easy to dislike him, especially against John Dodson, who comes off as extremely self-confident but likable nonetheless. I was happy to see Dodson win that, but I am growing fond of Dillashaw as a fighter. His tenacity on the ground, he really doesn't sit still too often. He's always trying to advance his position. So I really appreciate that, especially in somebody who uses wrestling as like he does. So I know Tamura is not, I'm trying to remember his last fight. Who did he fight? I know he won his last fight, right?
Yes, he actually no, he lost to Sun Sao. He won against Tiquan.
Yes, I do remember the Tiquan fight. Tamura definitely has power, but I imagine Dillashaw is going to do Dillashaw, and that's take him down. Get a dominant position and end this fight. Hopefully, we have seen Dillashaw have a hard time ending fights when he has dominant position. He seemed to struggle with quite a few little submission moves. So hopefully he's been working on that with his alpha male partners, and he'll finish his fight.
Well, with being an alpha male, you should at least have the guillotine down.
Yes, yeah. I feel like that's your initiation to the alpha male training camp. I don't understand why he has such a hard time with it, but hopefully he's worked on that. The next fight is Quinn Mulhern versus Rick Story. I feel like it's been forever since we've seen Rick Story.
It has, and hopefully this is the Rick Story of old, because he's had a rough go at it in his last 3 or 4 fights. I mean, getting Damian Maia, losing to Damian Maia is nothing to get worried about. But I mean, he had Mark Kamen. I really think that after the Charlie Brenneman loss, going into that just took him off of his game. So, but I think this is a fight that he's going to be able to get back on his game with Quinn Mulhern. I mean, he's a ground specialist. Stand-up isn't anything great. I think Story's going to be the far stronger fighter here, be able to push him against the cage, and I think he'll eventually knock out Quinn. Quinn's stand-up's not that great, and I think that Story's just going to manhandle this guy.
I like that. I'm just going to go with Rick Story because I have no idea who Mulhern is. So I think that's a safe bet.
He's a Strikeforce leftover. So.
Is he?
Yes.
I don't even remember seeing him in Strikeforce.
Exactly.
I like his name, though. Quinn Mulhern. Sounds like an actor. So we have that's the end of the Facebook fights, and then we have the preliminary card on FX. Starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have Darren Cruikshank versus John McDessie. I'm actually a fan of Darren Cruikshank, but I think he might be in trouble here with McDessie. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with you there. But this is a fantastic fight to start the prelims off with, and could easily be fight of the night if Cruikshank's jaw can hold up. He doesn't have a soft chin, but McDessie hits really hard, and they both are going to go after each other.
Right.
They both have fantastic kicks, both Taekwondo guys. This should be a really, really exciting fight. And I am leaning towards McDessie. I think he's got the power advantage. I think he's got the better chin. And Cruikshank likes to drop his hands because he likes to kick, and so I think that's going to lead to a problem because McDessie, I think, can take the punch. I don't think Cruikshank can. I think McDessie will end this fight and via TKO.
Oh, that makes me sad because like I said, I really am a pretty big fan of Darren Cruikshank. He brings something to the table. It's very exciting. But I agree with you. I think McDessie might be a little bit much for him.
I mean, Cruikshank does have wrestling, so I mean,
yeah.
McDessie has had problems with wrestlers. So I mean, that's That's something that maybe we'll see. I mean, I'm sure McDessie's been working like crazy on that. But if Cruikshank could get it to the ground, it would be a lot. It won't be fight of the night, but he could, maybe he could get a decision victory.
Oh, makes me sad. I'm a sad panda right now. I don't know. Cruikshank might be able to pull this off. So we have another strike force left over in our next fight. Jordan Mean versus Dan Miller. I think this is a pretty interesting or intriguing matchup. What do you think?
I would agree. Dan Miller, I mean, I think is a guy that he's coming off a win. I still think he needs to continue to win to stay in the UFC. I think if he loses here, even though I think he's got a small fan base that likes to follow him, I think that we could see Dan gone. Jordan, if he doesn't win here, I think he's gone. So I think this is these guys are fighting to stay in the UFC with all the cuts that Dana's wanting to make. Jordan Mean is an extremely fun fighter to watch, and Dan too. When Dan is got his head in the game, so I think this could be a really entertaining fight if Dan wants to keep it standing. If Dan decides to take it to the ground, I don't know that Jordan has developed his ground game enough to defend against Dan Miller. That Jordan's had problems in the past with wrestlers. I mean, and Dan Miller's not near as good as these guys, Tyrone Woodley and Jason High, but he could absolutely still dominate Jordan on the ground, unless maybe you get surprised with these young guys. I mean, they're constantly working on their game, and maybe he stepped it up enough to get the scrambles and get back to his feet. Which, if he does, I think Jordan has an advantage. He's a little bit longer fighter and puts combinations together really well. So does Dan. It could be a fun fight, but I think Dan will end up getting the unanimous decision win here.
And to kind of make an aside comment on you saying Dana White wants to cut fighters, if you paid attention to the news this week, and this is for everybody else, not directed at you, of course, but that the Fox has announced Fox Sports 1 as the channel that they hope is going to rival ESPN, and they're going to start having weekly MMA cards on Fox Sports 1. So do you think that the UFC at this point can afford to be losing fighters if they're going to be doing weekly fight cards?
Even if they're doing weekly fight cards, I still think that they'll lose some guys. I mean, they said they're 100 plus fighters over what they're supposed to have. So,
but that was before this announcement. So, do you still think that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But even if they have, I mean, I'm assuming these aren't going to be. It depends. I guess if these weekly fight cards are 13 plus fights, or if they do like what the ESPN did with Friday night fights, where you get 3 fights or you get 2 fights. And so it depends on how many fights these cards are going to hold. If these cards are going to be, just an hour show, 2 fights per show, which to me seems more likely, I still think you're going to have to see some cuts.
Okay.
But so I guess we'll wait and see what they do with that. They haven't announced how big the cards are going to be.
No, they haven't. No.
So I think that's the key: is how big of a card are they going to put together.
But I agree with you on your assessment of Jordan Mean versus Dan Miller. I think Mean. I think he's going to be. From what I remember, he was a fairly exciting fighter in Strikeforce. So I think he'll put up a good struggle against Dan Miller. But I think Dan Miller is going to be very much aware that he's on the edge, and he's going to probably make this a not quite exciting fight just because he's going to need the W to continue his career with the UFC. I agree with you 100%. So Dan Miller, although. I hope they can make it at least somewhat exciting. I don't think.
Yeah, if they keep it standing, if Dan decides to keep it standing, because Dan he's got solid Muay Thai, it could be a fun fight. So let's hope. I'm hoping for that. That's what I'm hoping for. But I have my doubts.
The next fight on the card will be Antonio Carvalho versus Darren Elkins.
Oh, Darren Elkins, a guy that I love to pick against, but I'm not going to do that here. Carvalho's fantastic on the ground. I mean, Elkins likes to take the fight to the ground, but he's got good sub-defense. Elkins' stand-up is improving. I really don't see Carvalho. I mean, Carvalho's first-round submission chance is about it. Once the guys start getting slick, I don't see that happening. He's not going to be able to get the fight to the ground himself. I mean, Elkins is going to have to take it there, and when he does, he'll be very aware of Carvalho's nasty guard. So I think that Elkins will get this fight to the ground when he needs to score points. When it's standing, I think he'll win it there. I think he'll end up getting a unanimous decision win.
All right. I don't think I have anything to disagree with there. I think I'm gonna have to go with your pick, only because I'm not quite as familiar with Carvalho, and I am familiar with Elkin. So uh, I guess I'll go with what you say.
Okay.
You pretend to know what you're talking about most of the time, anyway.
Yeah, I try to sound like I know what I'm talking about. That's just talk with a lot of confidence. I mean, I really don't have any idea what the hell I'm talking about, though.
So the main event for the preliminary card on FX is Patrick Cote versus Bobby Volker. Is that how you say it, Volker?
Yes, Volker.
I'm actually going for the upset here. I'm going with Bobby Volker. Cote hasn't been that impressive in his last couple of fights, in my opinion. I mean, he's kind of struggled. I think that's just a sign of probably age and comfort for the Cote. I don't think he's that old, but Bobby Volker seems very hungry. He's got some impressive wins underneath his belt, even though they're over Roger Bowling. But
Yeah, the trilogy.
yes, the trilogy that should have never happened. But
Right.
I think Volker is going to be able to hang with Patrick Cote.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that Volker, he can take a punch, and Cote has just not looked like the Patrick Cote that I was expecting to see once he got back into the UFC. He was his game plan against Kung Lee was absolutely horrible, and then against Alessio Sakara, I mean, he was able to get tattooed and hurt. And Volker comes with a lot of power. I have a hard time picking against Cote because I really like the guy, and that's not a reason to pick somebody. It's usually a bad way to go. But I'm going to go with Cote here. I'm just hoping that he puts it together. I think that I've watched Volker fight enough that Volker's not fantastic at anything. He's just a really durable guy who, like you said, is going to be very hungry and is probably going to look to push the pace in the later rounds and try to get the TKO. And if he lands, I think that he could. But I'm going to go with Cote. I think Cote's a better striker. I think he's a little bit more technical. I think that we're going to hopefully see a Cote that knows he also needs to win to stay with the big boys. And so I'm going to go with Cote here via UD. But absolutely, I think that if Cote's not, or if Volker is a good money bet, I would definitely take it.
You know what? I am going to counter that with I am especially picking Volker in this fight because this is Cote's welterweight debut on top of that. Not only has the man not looked great in his last fights, but now he's also dropping a weight class. So now dropping a weight class might rejuvenate him. We always say that, don't we? But how many times does that actually happen? How many times do we see a guy make a debut at a weight class and you're like, oh my God, he looks amazing? Not as often as I think we'd like to say. So I'm definitely sticking with Bobby on this one.
Okay, well, I guess we'll wait and see. But like I said, I agree. I mean, I really had a hard time picking Cote, but I think that I'm going to hold out hopes. So we'll see what happens.
All right, so let's move on to the main card, the pay-per-view portion of this. And like most cards that happen in Canada with George St. Pierre as the headliner, the undercard is a little questionable on the pay-per-view. Starting off, we have Mike Ricci versus Colin Fletcher. We all remember Colin Fletcher, don't we? He's that guy whose name is Colin Fletcher.
Well, the fans that don't remember the name might remember the face when they see him because he looks like Nosferatu. I mean, if you put Nosferatu next to Colin Fletcher, I mean, they look identical.
I don't like that. That actually kind of scares me.
Yeah, it is. I'm not kidding. I've got a picture. I put it on Twitter where I put Nosferatu next to Colin. I mean, they look 100% like they could be twins. But other than looking like an old school vampire, Colin Fletcher, I agree, is not that impressive. Mike Ricci is a guy I think he's a decent talent. I mean, he's not anything that gets me excited, though. Not excited about this fight. I think Ricci is overall the better fighter here. If he wants to take it to the ground, he can. Fletcher, I can't remember who Fletcher fought last, but I know that he completely controlled him.
Norman Park.
There you go.
We all
Park controlled him
Norman
for the
Park.
entire fight.
He's that guy named Norman Park.
Yes, and another guy that we could get really excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Ricci, I think he lost to Colton Smith I believe, in his last outing. But it's not going to matter here. Ricci should be able to control this fight. He's got the better stand-up. I think he'll have a definite ground advantage and should easily get a UD, if not a submission victory here for anybody that really cares, which is probably just Canadians, and maybe I think that Fletcher's British, so maybe they care.
I have such a hard time caring about this fight at all. I mean, Mike Ricci, really? Is he like, did I miss something? And
well,
Mike
the scene
Ricci
with him
is-
drinking the wine is still embedded in my head and is so douchey looking. So, yeah.
So I'm picking Mike Ricci only because I know him. Colin Fletcher is apparently from Tough Smashes, which I did not watch. So, and to be honest with you, I think The Ultimate Fighter has been absolute shite up until this season, for a very long time. I think this season is actually a really good season. There's some pretty serious talent on this season of The Ultimate Fighter. But
I don't think anybody would argue with you there.
But having said that, I'm just not impressed with either Colin Fletcher or Mike Ricci. So I'm going to go with Steve Mazzagatti as their referee, going to be the winner of that fight. The next fight on the card is Chris Camozzi versus Nick Ring. Stellar matchups here.
Yeah.
I actually like Chris Camozzi. There's something about him that I find endearing. Nick Ring, I think I'd be a bigger fan of him if he just came out of the closet already. We already know. Just stop trying to hide it. And he has Nick Ring, despite not his record isn't terrible, but it should be worse than what it is.
Absolutely, yes. There's a couple questionable decisions that he was able to pull off. The Fukuda loss comes to mind, or the Fukuda win comes to mind. So, Nick Ring is a guy that is one of those guys I just want to lose because I want to see him leave because I don't enjoy watching him fight, and I'd rather see him on Access Television than on the UFC pay-per-view. Chris Camozzi, I agree with you. He's, you know what, and the thing about Chris Camozzi is he always brings the fight,
Right.
whereas Nick Ring tends to try to figure out a way to decision a win. Chris Camozzi, regardless of what's going on. I mean, he was losing that Nick Catone fight, and Catone a nasty knee that split him open, and the doctors had to stop it. And unfortunately, because of that Nick Catone fight, I have to go with Nick Ring here. I think Ring's wrestling is going to be good enough to put Chris on his back. And Nick Ring he's got a solid chin. He can take a punch. And Chris, I know he'll try to make it exciting, but I think that unfortunately we're going to see a very boring fight that's going to get made fun of a lot on Twitter. And the 3-round decision probably going to Nick Ring here.
And I'm looking at Nick Ring's record, and I know I just said that he should have more losses on it than he does. I didn't realize how true that statement was. He only has one loss on his record.
Yes.
One.
Yeah.
To Tim Bosch. One
Yeah,
loss on his record. There's
3-1 in the UFC.
Yeah, there's no way that even if he loses this fight by some weird fluke, that he's getting cut. So we're going to have to at least see him one more time.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Nick Ring. God, we hate you. Next fight on the card. This is when we actually start getting a little exciting. Jake Ellenberger versus Nate Marquardt. I feel like Marquardt has trouble with wrestlers, and I feel like Jake Ellenberger sometimes forgets he's a wrestler.
I think that's a pretty accurate description of this fight. I like the fact that Nate asked for this fight. That makes me at least feel good about Nate fighting, because Nate is a guy that is one of those fighters I think has head problems. I think sometimes he's just not into what he's doing, and it shows when he gets inside the cage and takes 50 leg kicks to his leg and doesn't check a kick till late in the 3rd round.
Right.
I still have a hard time picking Ellenberger to lose to Marquardt, mainly because I don't trust Nate. I've learned over the years of watching MMA and analyzing fights that if a guy is a head case, I mean, you're literally 50-50 on who is going to show up. And I think that Nate Marquardt's a head case. I don't think that he is always on or in the game. Ellenberger, however, is always there. The dude brings it every time he fights, and you can definitely figure in the 1st round he's going to be zinging some shots at Nate Marquardt that absolutely, though Marquardt's only been, I think, knocked out by Anderson Silva, could definitely put Marquardt to sleep. Assuming Ellenberger doesn't push himself too hard to where he gasses, I think Ellenberger, even though we haven't seen a lot of his wrestling, I think he can use his wrestling to control this fight and get a UD, possibly a knockout in the first round. I'm going with Jake Ellenberger here. I'd love to see Nate come in and get a win.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Nate Marquardt, but I'm a fan of both the guys. Don't get me wrong, but I'd like to see Nate get a win because I'd like to see him do something for a change. But I just don't see it happen. I think Ellenberger is going to get the win here, and I really wish this was Johnny Hendricks versus Jake Ellenberger, but that's a moot point.
I am equally happy with what happened. I mean, I understand that things happen and people have to shuffle things around, and I think the shuffling around actually is still as entertaining for me. I was excited about seeing Nate Marquardt back in the UFC. I agree with everything you said. Jake Ellenberger, however, does have that loss to Christ, how am I forgetting his name?
Campman.
Yes, Martin Campman, and I don't know. I think if I agree with you. Nate Marquardt is a head case, but if he comes in there, even remotely focused on this fight, I think he might be able to give Ellenberger some problems on the feet, and Ellenberger is always relying on that on his crazy right hand or whatever, and I just don't know if he'll be able to land that on Nate Marquardt. I think Nate Marquardt has a little bit better.
So are you going with the upset here?
Yeah, I'm going with the upset. Why not? It's not like I'll be.
Well, there's going to be. I think this card will absolutely see at least a couple big upsets, and I don't know if this would be a big upset. To me, it'd be a big upset because I don't trust Nate, and I hope you're right though, because I think Nate Marquardt comes in, and if we see Nate, Nate the Great, Jake Ellenberger could absolutely be in trouble.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of underdogs winning, so I tend to pick a lot for the underdog. So I'm definitely going for Bobby Volker against Patrick Cote, and I'm going to go with Nate Marquardt against Jake Ellenberger. Although I'm not quite as confident about that pick as I am about the Volker one. But Marquardt, let's do it. Next fight on the card: Carlos Condit versus Johnny Hendricks. Can I mention that it bothers me that Johnny Hendricks does not spell his name with two N's? It's only one N. It really bothers me. I don't know why.
Well, it's probably his mom and dad's fault. They probably didn't know how to spell Johnny.
Yeah. I mean, that happens. And I bet you anything that is his name. Like on his birth certificate.
Oh,
Johnny.
no, I'm sure that. And I'm sure it is just that his parents didn't know how to spell it. I mean, you would be surprised how often that happens.
That is a huge pet peeve of mine. Parents, stop that. That is not a full name. That is a shortened version of an actual name. His name should be John or Jonathan. His name is not Johnny. Bobby is not a full name. I'm angry about that. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead. So Carlos Condit and Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks, obviously, some really great wrestling, and he hits really hard. But a friend of mine who works with me at Fight Metric always describes Johnny Hendricks as being that guy who either comes in with a really great KO in the first round or he barely wins a split decision. Do you see that being at least a true description of Johnny Hendricks? And then how do you see this fight playing out?
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, his close split decisions, the fighter we're seeing now over Fitch, Koscheck, and Campman is a guy that just really started learning to use his striking. I mean, he has TKOs and he's knocked people out, but he didn't have a boxing coach until right before the John Fitch fight. That's when he finally got somebody in his camp to start working with his boxing. So I think that people still have that idea that he's just a one punch wonder or barely getting a decision win. I don't think that's the same fighter we have now. But Carlos Condit, I think is 1B in the welterweight division. This guy is fantastic. He can do it everywhere. He can. I really think that until the fight happens. The only person that I'm really worried about with Condit is Rory McDonald, and it's just because McDonald is a monster in that division. That's the only, and I think that McDonald could do the same thing GSP did, and he did so too. I mean, they've already fought. But I like Condit here. I think that we'll see a similar game plan to what we saw with Nick Diaz. I think Condit will stay away from Johnny. He'll stay away from that left hand. He's not going to be Martin Campman. He's not going to get caught or surprised. Condit's fighter IQ is off the charts.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think that we'll see a unanimous decision win here. I don't think that, I know some people are really feel that Condit's going to come in here and expose Johnny Hendricks and finish him. Hendricks is a really durable fighter, really tough fighter. I think that he's dangerous enough and his striking's improved enough that I don't think that you're going to see Condit take too many chances. So without taking those chances, I think that he'll end up just with a UD win. But I think it'll be an entertaining fight. And Hendricks could absolutely land that big left. He could set it up and crack him with it. And if he does, we could see lights out.
So looking at Johnny Hendricks' record, it actually reads a lot like what I just said. So you got the TKO win over Amir Sadala. You got a unanimous decision over Ricardo Funch, although there was probably, I wouldn't say barely. I think that was a pretty solid decision there. But then you got a majority decision over TJ Grant. TKO Charlie Brenneman. Then he lost to Rick Story. TKO TJ Waldberger. Split decision against Mike Pierce. KO John Fitch. Split decision Josh Koscheck. KO Martin Kampman. I think just based on that pattern, I'm going to go with he's going to be on the losing end of a split decision in this fight. I'm just going on patterns here. This is all math. This is all
you
math.
think it'll be that close? It'll be close enough. He'll keep it close enough that it'll get a split decision.
No, I don't. No, I'm lying.
Yeah, I know. I hope it does. I hope you're right. I hope he does. I'd like to see him get the win because I think this is just a horrible matchup for him. I really wanted to see him against GSP, but this is a bad match for him to try to get there.
There's a part of me that really wants to see him against GSP, but he's not really, other than his TKO wins in the first round, he's not an exciting fighter other than that.
No, I just want to see him hit GSP. That's pretty much it.
And that if anything, that Carlos Condit GSP fight showed, reminded us that GSP is very beatable. He is definitely beatable.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's not. His chin isn't the best.
No, it's
not.
I
mean, he just does a really good job of hiding it.
So that kind of brings us into our next fight. George St. Pierre versus Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is not the hardest hitter on the planet, but definitely one of the more accurate punchers out there.
I don't know. Robbie Lawler would probably disagree with that.
What?
That Nick Diaz isn't one of the hardest hitters. Is not the hardest hitter on the planet.
Oh, well. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
I think a lot of people. I think that's kind of a staple, or something that people go to with Nick because, I mean, he constantly gets put as the pitter patter, Stockton slap and all that stuff. But you talk to guys that sit there and get hit by him, and they're like, no, those punches don't feel good. They're not light, and they absolutely can put you down. So I don't know. But you know what? You said it at the earlier in the show with your assessment of this fight, and that's GSP's probably going to just completely dominate this fight.
But and I think you might have alluded to this. I think the first 2 rounds will be exciting because GSP is going to take Nick down, and Nick has a really good guard. He has a very, very good guard. We say that about a lot of guys. He has a really good guard, and when the fight starts standing, I think Nick is going to do Nick, and he's going to try and close the distance. And I don't know if I ever really remember George St. Pierre being a fighter who's used to kind of backing up. Like Carlos Condit used this strategy, if you will, where he spent most of the fight kind of avoiding Nick Diaz and then throwing the combinations and then getting out of there. Throwing combinations, getting out of there. That is not George St. Pierre's style. I don't think I've ever seen him fight like that. So he's usually the more aggressive one. He wants to be the one that controls the center of the octagon and take you down. Is that going to be a detriment to George St. Pierre in this fight against Nick Diaz? Do you think that he's going to be able to change up his pattern against Nick Diaz? He's going to have to if he doesn't want to get Nick Diaz in the face.
Well, it's really the only thing that makes this fight somewhat hard to call is how much is Nick Diaz in GSP's head? How much of all the stuff that GSP's been saying, that he's, that you don't know how dark he is and all this stuff. How much should we really, take that into consideration that GSP is going to, because GSP can't really think that he's going to take Nick down and ground and pound him out. Nick's guard's too good. Nick can take a lot of damage, and that's not, to me, that's not going to be a surprise to anyone, and that's not going to really define GSP. If GSP goes in there and tries to stand with Nick and tries to knock Nick out, then I think that would be a surprise to everybody because I don't think anyone expects that to happen. And that's where Nick could easily win this fight because I think Nick's stand-up, his striking, is better than GSP's striking. And I don't think that jab is going to work against a Nick Diaz. I just don't see that happen. I cannot believe that GSP would go in there because he's such a game planner that he's not going to go in there and just, maybe throw a few jabs and then shoot. Throw a few jabs and then shoot. I just can't see him staying in with Nick and giving Nick an opportunity to land a liver shot or something that could change the outcome of this fight.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on all of your points, man, this is.
I know you want to pick Nick Diaz, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I do too.
I always.
This is again something weird. I just can't do it. I want to pick Nick. I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy. I picked Nick Diaz. But no, I've learned from Anderson Silva, GSP. I mean, these guys are the best for a reason. Until somebody dethrones them, and that happens, I'm not picking against them. But you could pick Nick Diaz for both of us, though. How about that?
Can I do that?
Nick, and it's yes. I will support your pick of Nick Diaz.
Okay, all right. So this is what's going to happen. I'm picking Nick Diaz on behalf of everybody who wants to pick Nick Diaz but knows better. I'm doing this for you people. I'm doing this for everyone.
That's what we do on Across the Pond.
Yeah, we take the bullet for you. That's what this is. I'm taking a bullet. I'm like a fucking martyr over here.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I hope it's right though. I will be rooting Nick Diaz on like you wouldn't believe. I mean, and if he wins, I will be up yelling and going nuts. So I hope you're right. I would love to see him unseat GSP because I just know how. Mainly for me, it's just how. I mean, I've always liked Diaz. And since the Robbie Lawler fight, I was a huge Robbie Lawler fan. And when Nick came into UFC, I thought Robbie was. I mean, I liked Robbie because Robbie would get punched and just go completely insane. He would like go into Hulk smash mode, and I always thought it was funny and it was entertaining. And well, he went Hulk smash mode on Nick, and Nick knocked him out. And so after that, I became a Nick Diaz fan. I followed his entire career, and I've always loved watching him fight. And so I really would like to see Nick win here, but I also want to see him win because I know how pissed off so many people will be if he does. Because so many people think that, he doesn't deserve this title shot, which I agree he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. But
but it'll make so many people so angry, and it'll just be so funny.
I feel like the UFC had to do it. They had to strike while the iron is hot. You let somebody else come in and get a title shot, and then people forget about this supposed rivalry between GSP and Nick Diaz, which, I fully 150% believe this is Nick Diaz being Nick Diaz, and no matter who's the winner or the loser at the end of this fight, Nick Diaz is going to go up and congratulate George St. Pierre and apologize and say this was all just to sell tickets, man. This is what I do, because he's done that so many times where he's talked so much crap about his opponent, and then when the fight is over, he's like, "Look, man, this is how we get people to watch the fight." Sorry.
Well, and Nick has said as much in interviews. I mean, he's not. He said the Diaz brothers both, talk trash inside the cage and say all those things just because that's how they fight. That's how they keep themselves motivated, and that's just the thing they do. Some people can't handle that and they can't get past that, which. I'm not that way. Like I said, I enjoy it. I enjoy the talking trash. I love watching those guys talk trash inside the cage, even if they're getting their asses kicked. I still think it's funny. And so, I agree. I think, Nick will definitely, although if it's a decision win, I think that Nick will probably congratulate GSP and then complain about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a boring decision for George St. Pierre. I am going to stick with my Nick Diaz pick. I love the Diaz brothers. There's so many people that hate them, and you know what? I don't care. They're awesome. They're amazing. They're good fighters. I don't know if great, but good fighters, and they make the fights entertaining. Even if the fight starts off being boring, watching them cuss out their opponent while in the middle of the cage, I think is hilarious. So
and they never quit. Those guys never quit.
No, you won't see Nick Diaz tap into punches. Not that I'm, mentioning anybody who's done that. George St. Pierre. I'm just saying, you won't see Nick do that anytime soon. All right, so we have a special guest coming on, right?
Yes, yeah. We're getting ready to bring on Wayne Swab. I met Wayne at UFC 148 at the blackjack table on a Sunday night before I flew back to Indiana. And I'm horrible at blackjack. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And he was kind enough to not get mad at me as I screwed up everybody at the table with pretty regular bad play. The guy, he does a lot of work with Sony Studios, Disney, Warner Brothers, does a lot of set lighting work. He also does a little bit of stand-up comedy. He's also a poker player. Those guys out there on the West Coast, they tend to get into that. Enjoys MMA. So he was at UFC 157. We'll get to talk to him a little bit about that and see what he thought about that. But yeah, we're getting ready to bring Wayne on, and it's been a long time coming because the guy's constantly doing shows. So let's see what he's got to say.
Absolutely. I hate this part. This is the worst part of having a show.
Hi, I can't get to the phone right now. Please you leave me a number.
Is that the right number, my friend?
That does not sound like Wayne Swab. While
we figure this out. Awesome. So what did you think? Did you you guys didn't talk about? Haven't had a chance to talk about last weekend's UFC in Japan. You did predictions for it, but you didn't get a chance to actually talk about the results. What did you think of the card?
I thought it was fantastic, and up into it was at the ending, anyways, was fantastic. I mean, the last two fights, I'm a huge Mark Hunt fan, so seeing Mark get the win was great. I'm glad to see that he's fighting Junior Dos Santos. Hopefully, JDS wants to come in and throw with Mark, which will probably end badly from JDS. But
yeah, I agree.
And then Vanderlei Silva. Looking like old Vanderlei Silva. I mean, it was really exciting. I just couldn't. I couldn't ask for a better finish.
You know, I'm kind of convinced though that Brian Stan was told to go in there and just brawl with him, because that's not the way Brian Stan. I mean, he's a Greg Jackson fighter, or he was a Greg Jackson fighter. I don't know if he still trains with them, but he's smarter than that. He's a lot smarter than that, than to just go in there and throw heavy hands with Vanderlei Silva. But he went in there and did it anyway.
Reached the Sprint voicemail box of.
Okay, we are not going to.
Evidently, we might not be able to get a hold of Wayne today.
That sucks. All right, we will. I don't know what you want to do after that.
Well, we can go ahead and segue into the entertainment portion, and maybe we'll give Wayne a little bit another try here in a few minutes.
Okay.
And see if we can get him on here. I don't know if did you get to. I'm sure you did. Did you watch The Walking Dead this past Sunday?
Of course I did. Let me tell you something. I'm a huge Walking Dead fan, and I can't tell you how much I love The Walking Dead right now. I've been a fan of them. You know, people have complained about certain seasons. I've still liked them. But this is by far my favorite season so far. By far. First off, Michonne is my favorite character ever. I'm just putting it out there.
Why? That is just not surprising to me. I mean, that's where people need to listen to Pop Heavy once it comes back. That Michonne is your favorite character.
She's amazing. Well, first, you know, and I probably
she's ugly is why I'm saying that. I mean, she's ugly.
she's amazing as a character. I really like the actress that plays her. She reminds me, the way she looks, she reminds me of a very young Lauryn Hill. If you watch Sister Act 2, she kind of has that same, like the same facial features as a really young Lauryn Hill. So I like that. And there aren't that many, although with the start of shows like Deception and Scandal, we are starting to see more strong black female characters in shows that aren't on BET. And let me tell you something, if they're on BET, they're definitely not strong at all. Just letting you know. They're stereotypical. And it's good to see somebody who's in a role, see a strong black woman in a role that's not stereotypical. She's not ghetto. She's not trying to get a man. That's not the point of the show. First off, so that would just be kind of weird. But it's just good to see that kind of character. And
So you weren't a fan of 227?
you know, 227 was the shit back in the day. But in 2000 and now, we can't have those same types of shows nowadays. It's just
Okay.
not, I like seeing, and I don't want people to think just because I'm black that I'm just rooting for her because she's a black character. I think any show that has a minority, whether it be their race or whether it be their sexual orientation, kudos to them for going out on a limb and really trying to push characters that America's not really used to. I mean, if you watched Friends, which was probably one of the most watched shows ever, they had like one black person on there for 2 episodes. Really? It was Aisha Tyler, so I will give him kudos for that. But, it's
I think
not...
they had some black waitresses.
Oh, okay. That's like 3 steps from being a mammy. But, I really like her character. And tell me you agree with this. The last episode of The Walking Dead, they did an amazing job introducing real personality for her character.
Yes, they finally, and I think I touched on that when they first brought her over. I mean, you really never got to feel a feel for who she was. They kept her kind of shrouded in darkness as far as her personality and stuff. And yeah, that absolutely came out in this episode. We got to see Rick get to be Rick again, and I was really excited to see them bring Morgan back. I don't know if you were. I thought his performance was in this episode was what really stood out to me and was fantastic. So this episode was great. It was nice to see them just to slow it down a little bit and give Michonne a ton of screen time and give Carl a little bit of screen time too. And I'm still kind of wanting him to get ate by zombies, but not as much as I used to.
No, I mean, I just have this thing about disobedient little boys, and when your daddy tells you that you're supposed to do something, you're supposed to do it. I don't care if it's a zombie apocalypse. You're supposed to do it. And second off, Michonne is a grown woman and you are a little boy. And if she says something, you listen to her because she's older than you. So I just have a problem with Carl in general. He's very, I understand he's growing up in a world that's not the same that you and I know, but I'd still be a yes ma'am, yes sir kind of kid. Damn it. And it was good to see the return of, why am I forgetting his name?
Lenny James, the Morgan Jones, yeah.
Yes. And I know you were looking forward to it. Were you disappointed that it didn't kind of... I don't know. I haven't read the comic book.
That he's completely insane?
I haven't read the comic book, so I don't know how close this meeting is to how the comic book
It's not at all. Okay. But Morgan was troubled. I mean, he did lose his son and stuff, and that was an issue for him. I still have to think, though, that he's going to play a huge role in maybe the final episode. When they go against Woodbury, and especially I just think that he's going to pull it out and come around. I mean, it's killing me because, like I said last week, Tyrese, another one of my favorite characters, is hardly gotten any screen time, and now he's in Woodbury, and now we've got Morgan, who is completely off his rocker. But he did give us a glimpse that he was able to come back a little bit. So hopefully he can pull it together. I love Lenny James as an actor. He's one of my favorite guys as far as some of his work on TV shows. What was it a few years ago that was canceled? I thought way before its time. I can't think of the name of the TV show. Post-apocalyptic.
Wow, that's surprisingly
Jericho.
Jericho. Okay, yes.
I loved that TV series, and I think that if that was something that they would have brought out today, I think it would be a huge hit. But unfortunately, it wasn't, and it took the fans going nuts to get a second season. But yeah, Lenny's great, so hopefully he gets to get the turnaround that I'm hoping for.
I was a little torn about his character, and I get that being living in solidarity like that and having lost pretty much everyone would probably drive most people a little insane. his ramblings about you're a dead man walking, you're walking around with a dead man's face or something like that. I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of that. Maybe just because I really wanted him to be the Morgan that we knew. You know, I wanted to believe that he was stronger than that. That he could.
Maybe they didn't go into it enough. I think that I'm trying to, it's kind of crazy that it happened, but the fact that his dead wife that he couldn't shoot killed his son.
Yeah, maybe that's a little bit much for anybody.
I mean, that would be really. I can't really process that because the chance of that happening obviously would be crazy, and to witness that, I think that's maybe what just broke him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I think most people probably would be a little bit much. In my mind, though, of course, I would rise and overcome, but that's probably the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah, when the zombie apocalypse happens, send me a letter and let me know how everything's working out for you.
Oh my God, I don't like it here anymore. I don't want to be here.
So I know you're a fan of Justified, correct?
I am, but I do not keep up with the show like I
you're
should.
killing me.
Yeah,
See,
I know.
Andre doesn't watch Justified, so I thought I was going to be able to talk to somebody about Justified.
But I love Timothy Oliphant. If you want to talk about how awesome Timothy Oliphant is, I could talk about him all day. I think he's amazing. But tell me what's going on in the show right now. I don't mind.
Well, right now we've got the Detroit Mafia is really moving into town, and so Timothy Oliphant, his character, of course, is dealing with those guys, and you've got there's a story. The storyline actually, this new season storyline was kind of what was this was a real story. The guy that jumped out of the plane, the Prison Break had him in it. He had the millions of dollars, and the FBI could never find him.
Oh yeah, that's not even his real name. That's the name the FBI gave him. I know.
Yeah,
you're talking
but you know the story I'm talking about.
Yes.
I'm sure I didn't probably describe that well enough for everybody else. But if you watch Prison Break, he was in Prison Break. He evaded the FBI for years. He's never been caught. They don't know where the hell he went. Everybody's still looking for him. Well, they kind of brought a character similar to that into the Justified storyline, and so that's been the entire season. Is Timothy Oliphant's character, Marshall Givens, is hunting this guy down, and the Detroit Mafia evidently want him dead because he stole money from them, and so they're working to get him with Boyd Crowder and some other guys, and so it's been a great season. I mean, my personal favorite. I know you're a Timothy Oliphant, but I love Walton Goggins. Boyd Crowder is, to me, what makes Justified great is the dynamic between Oliphant and him. I think is fantastic, and when those two guys are together on the screen, I just think it makes the show really special. And so it's been a fun and interesting season. So I guess we'll have to get you caught up on it so we can talk about it sometime.
Oh yeah, and again, love Timothy Oliphant.
So are there any shows that you've been watching here lately?
I'm a big Once Upon a Time fan, so that's probably not up your alley.
No, I watched the very first episode of it, and I can't get into it. There was a comic book called, and of course the name's going to escape me.
I know what you're talking about, or it's like something Fables, right? Or
yeah, it was Fables. Fables was the name of it.
Oh, look at me knowing stuff.
Yeah, you nailed it. Fables. I really enjoyed that, and it was kind of a similar premise where the fairy tale characters crossed over into reality and our reality and all that stuff that broke the veil. And so I really enjoyed that, and I actually probably would enjoy it if I gave it a chance. But there's just so many things I watched that's going to have to be down the road on Netflix.
Yeah, and I'm actually still trying to find this dude's name. It's some sort of. This is really driving me crazy. This bank robber's name. It's really going to drive me insane. I'll figure it out one day. I'm trying to think what else have I been watching on TV. I've been watching. I don't know how much you watch like the Showtime HBO shows, but I am going to start watching Game of Thrones.
Oh, absolutely. Love Game of Thrones.
So I'm going to be starting from the very beginning. I'm a little nervous because I felt like everybody was hot to try on Mad Men, and then I was like, I'm going to try this shit, and I can't stand the show. I don't understand the appeal.
Well, you didn't like the movie, the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
No,
So
I did, but you know what? I am fully willing to admit I may not have liked it for the wrong reasons.
okay.
So, do you recommend me going back and rewatching those first, seeing how I feel? I mean, it was just like 10 years later or whatever. How long it's been since those things came out? But
I think if you watch the extended ones, where they added the footage and stuff, because it actually, I mean, it's a rarity when footage that was left on the cutting room floor adds anything to the movie. Usually, it's horrible. But the extended ones where they added the footage, it does make a difference in the story. It's just, the movies were so long, at 3+ hours, that they had to cut stuff back. So I think you should rewatch them. I mean, there's some of the scenes and stuff they shot in there were just ridiculous. So I mean, New Zealand's a beautiful place, and I mean, just for the filming of it, I think it's worth a second run through.
okay, I definitely will do that. But
Game of Thrones, I think you'll like.
Okay.
If you're saying that you like Lord of the Rings for the wrong, or disliked it for the wrong reasons, I mean, Game of Thrones is very well acted, very well shot, and the storyline is different. It's not your typical storyline.
all right, I'm ready for it then. I'm fully willing to commit myself to it, and then when you get this mindset that you don't like it to begin with, then even if there's a possibility for you to like it, you have this mindset that there's no way you can like it. So I felt like maybe that's where I was at that time, and I think I appreciate much more detailed movies now as an adult, as a full-fledged adult, and not a stupid 20-something that was probably high most of the time anyway. So I'm going to give it a try, and I'm excited about Game of Thrones. But I did catch up on Girls on HBO. Have you watched Girls?
No, that's not up my alley.
It's an interesting show, but it really is a show about nothing. Like, it is about absolutely nothing. I'd be interested to hear what you thought of the main characters. Lena Durham, I believe is her name, is the creator of the show and the main character. And she is one of the most unlikable main characters I've ever encountered. She is that person that you remember, probably when you were single, and you had friends over, and there was that one person that was friends with somebody you were friends with that you did not like, but every time that you had something, that person came along because they were friends with somebody else. That's who she is. She's that person that comes up and you're like, oh my God, why are you here? How do I avoid you? And how do I not look like an asshole because I don't want you to be here anymore? She's that person that you just really just can't stand. What else have I been watching? House of Lies. I have not gotten to House of Cards yet, but House of Lies, I'm a big fan. I love Don Cheadle. What else have I been watching? Ultimate Fighter. Not bad this season.
How about are you? What did I just see that was getting ready to start up again?
Oh, I did see something that's.
Have you been watching The Americans?
No, I haven't. I haven't started watching them yet. My girlfriend is trying to give Once Upon a Time a chance, and so far she does not like it, which I think is funny.
Well, then you should get her on The Americans because it's really good. It's
Yes, tell me. So, explain to me exactly what it's about. I've seen the previews, and I'm like, oh, look, it's Kerry Russell.
Yeah, it's set in the 80s. It's the premise that the Russians, have spies among us that are so embedded that we can't tell them from you or I. And it's the story. The story surrounds two spies and their life in America, trying to work for Russia, but then they also have they fall in love somewhat with the United States and our culture and everything, because just for the fact that we have electricity that works all the time. So that's basically the story. It's just all the subterfuge and going ons of the 1980s, the Cold War, and between the CIA and the KGB.
All right. So tell me how Kerry Russell's doing. Like, she's
way better than she did in Dark Skies. Movie. But anyways, yes, she's been good. She's been solid. really, there's nobody that I would point to. Even John Boy from oh man, what was? Oh my goodness, I cannot believe I'm horrible today at remembering the names of shows. Um, yeah. Anyways, everybody in the show has done a really solid job of acting, and the characters are written really well. Uh, and it's not sometimes the spy shows you're especially if they're dramas you're gonna run into the downtime and it can get really slow and muddled I guess in itself. But this show has been able to keep a decent pace and keep things believable. So I've really enjoyed it.
I am actually really looking forward to watching watching it, but I've gotten to the point now. I feel like Netflix and Hulu have spoiled me, where I'm waiting for shows to get to a certain point and then just kind of watch a whole slew of them at once. Because I'm like, I don't want to watch episode at a time. That's lame. I want to watch, you know, I want to watch the an entire story arc in one sitting on a weekend. So. I feel like I'm waiting for that. There's The Americans, and then there's Red Widow, which seems to be of a similar mindset, starring, I believe her name is Roddy Ferguson. Is that her? Not Roddy Ferguson. Roddy
Mitchell.
Michelle Mitchell. Yes, Roddy Mitchell. And Roddy Ferguson is a judo guy. Wow, that's where my mind goes. And I like her. I've always liked her. I feel like she's always gotten the short end of the stick in terms of the roles that she's gotten. So I don't know if you've had a chance to watch that. I've heard good things about it so far. Maybe we should give each other homework assignments to watch these shows.
I'll check it out, and I'll check out Girls, and then we need to get an episode of Pop Heavy going.
Yes, we definitely do. Because we can spend hours talking about that stuff. I do want to mention that I did go to the movies last night.
Okay.
And I saw Oz the Great and Powerful, and I absolutely loved it. And you mentioned that it's been getting mixed reviews. And I did see that, so I was a little skeptical about seeing it. But it is a genuinely feel-good, fun movie to watch. The special effects are amazing. And I would like to apologize to you, first and foremost, Matt.
Okay.
It was directed by Sam Raimi, and I loved it. So, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm going to have to apologize to Matt.
That's okay. And the three people that listen to Pop Heavy, they know what we're talking about there.
Yes. Oh yeah. I really expressed a dislike for Sam Raimi, and I still don't like the Spider-Man movies that he did. But I think he's really coming into his own in terms of as a director, what he's really good at, and he did fantastic in Oz, in my opinion. I think everybody did great, and Rachel Weisz. Gorgeous actress, and it was good seeing her as a role we're not used to seeing her play. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I'm going to check it out. So me being the Sam Raimi fan, I typically don't miss anything he does. So and with the rumors of him getting Bruce Campbell back under the microscope in an upcoming Evil Dead film, I'm really excited about that. I actually did want to ask you something though. Now I can't remember. Are you a Star Trek fan, or at least?
Yes, I am a Star Trek fan and not much of a Star Wars fan. I was always more of a Trekkie than the.
Okay, well I won't hold that against you. But have you seen the latest trailer for Star Trek?
Yes, that was one of the trailers that they showed right before Oz, and I'm so there. It's not even funny.
I was down. This is again going into how much I hate the Oscars, but just from the trailer, this movie should be nominated. So I mean the shots that they were showing, especially the one where they're running through. I have no idea what the hell it even is. It's like red, like giant things of rhubarb. I don't know, but just that scene where shit's blowing up everywhere. I mean, it looks like it's gonna have some fantastic shots that and J.J. Abrams can deliver big. When it comes to stuff like that. Yeah, it absolutely looks very, very entertaining. I loved the first one, so I'm very excited to see the second one.
And one thing about the Star Trek reboot, they did an amazing job on casting. It was just a really solid job. I love, I think it's Zachary Quinto.
Yes.
His name? Yes. I love him with his little gay self. He's so awesome. We knew. You didn't surprise anybody, Zachary. Thank you. But I really like him as Spock. I thought he was a great cast. Great to be cast as Spock. Chris Pine as James T. Kirk. I love him. I just love everybody.
Carl Urban, do not leave him off, man. I love him as Bones.
Yes, yes. I'm a big fan of Simon Pegg as Scotty.
Scotty,
Yeah.
no, they did a you're right on it. It was a fantastic casting job. Great director to match up with it. The writing it has been spot on. So yeah, it's all around really enjoyable, and absolutely will be there opening night dealing with all the screaming kids and wanting to punch people in the face. But
Yeah.
I will be out there. Another trailer I watched, and unfortunately, was The Hangover Part 3. Have you seen that?
I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody had put together. I saw the poster. I didn't see the trailer. I saw the poster online, and I'm like, oh look, somebody's being funny, and they put together a fake poster for The Hangover 3, and I was disappointed to find out that it was a real thing.
Yes, it is. And I mean, they're trying to change the vehicle a little bit. It's not going to have a wedding, bachelor party, that kind of thing. I don't think they take any drugs and get lost. But it's I want it to be funny because I like the cast. They've got John Goodman, who I love. I like Zach Galifianakis. I love Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms. I enjoy all these guys. I still enjoy Ken Jeong, but Jeffrey Tambor dies in it, and that's the catalyst for the show, for the movie, and that saddens me because I love Jeffrey Tambor. I think he's hilarious, and from Arrested Development days, I loved him in Arrested Development. But I'm hoping for good things, but the second one was so bad. I mean, it was a level of horrid that, I was really impressed that they were able to make that bad of a comedy.
I couldn't even bring myself to watch the second one, like from the trailers itself. And as a matter of fact, don't anybody steal this idea. I think we should do a fake trailers award show, because there's something to be said about the art of making a really good trailer for a movie. And I could tell from the trailer for Hangover 2 that it was going to be a terrible movie, and I had no desire to see it whatsoever. But I did see a trailer last night for a sequel that I think was amazing, and I definitely want to see it. And it was Monsters University. Monsters Inc., what is this, like 15 years later, they're coming up with a sequel to Monsters Inc. And it's
Yes.
a prequel to the original one, and it takes place in college, where Sully and, Mike Wazowski, can't forget his name, Mike Wazowski, meet. And they actually start off being rivals. And the trailer really, it was adorable. And it looks like it has all the same charm that the original one has. It doesn't seem to have lost a step. All the original actors have come back. John Goodman, though, I think is on Disney's speed dial whenever they need a voice. They're like, who can we get to play the father in this animated series? Let's see what John Goodman's up to. And he's like, nothing, man. I'm just watching old episodes of Roseanne. So he's back. Billy Crystal's back. It visually looks stunning. It looks better than the original one, which I remember when the original one came out, we thought that was amazing. So I'm really looking forward to it. Really, really looking forward to it. And I also saw another trailer, if you don't mind me interjecting with this as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
After Earth, it's the trailer for Will Smith and his son.
Ooh.
I want to see that.
I know. I actually, I think you told me that a month or so ago. Yes. I don't know.
And
I don't know.
not a Will Smith fan.
Post-apocalyptic Will Smith movies.
They don't have a good track record. But the movie seems to be, the main focus of the movie is his son and not Will Smith. Maybe that will be the saving grace for the movie. I think his son is for a kid, he's fairly decent as an actor. They could do much worse. They could do much worse.
They could do much. Yes, they could always do worse.
I mean,
they could have a turnip. That would be kind of strange.
I mean, there are some child actors out there that you're like, really? how did you end up getting this role other than the fact that you're cute? Like, as much as I love Once Upon a Time, whenever they do flashbacks, the little girl who plays a young Snow White, she is terrible. Charles Barkley, terrible. Just terrible. But the reason she got the role, she looks like the actress who plays Snow White as a kid. Like, you could tell that's the reason she got it. And I want to find her and I want to just slap her in the face. I really do. And tell her no. No. Stop it. But what can I say? She's probably a third my age and makes more money than me. So what can I say? But what other trailers have you seen that you think are interesting?
As of lately, that was really the ones the two jumped out to me. I know that they're doing a documentary on, which I don't know how much of a documentary enthusiast you are, on John Milius, which is, I would wager to say that not a lot of people even know who that is.
No,
but he has written damn near every great action movie in the past, I don't know, 20 some years, from Dirty Harry, Red Dawn, Rough Riders, Clear and Present Danger, Conan the Barbarian, Apocalypse Now.
Oh shit, he's the man.
Yeah, the guy is a fantastic writer. I mean, he's one of the best in Hollywood, and they're finally doing him a documentary just to I guess put his name out there because not enough people. I tell you, the writers just don't ever get enough credit. I mean, all these great films we watch, and for the most part, nobody has any idea who does the writing. And it's the same thing with comic books. And it drives me nuts because I like to write, and so I guess that's probably why it's a pet peeve to me. That I mean, without these guys, you wouldn't have any of this stuff. The dialogue is so important in the movies, and yes, people go in and sometimes they edit the scripts and stuff and improve that. But with John, that usually isn't the case. This guy is on set and he is fantastic. So if you go to IMDb and just look at the list of the stuff that he's done, I mean, it's ridiculous. Rome, I think you said didn't you like that TV series?
I've actually never seen Rome, but
Okay.
I'm a Spartacus fan, so anything that has to do with Rome, I'm in.
Okay, well, I mean, he had a hand in that. So this guy's been all over the place. Documentaries gonna be coming out, and if you're a person that enjoys documentaries and you like to see what goes on in Hollywood and what what's inside the mind of one of the by far and away one of the greatest writers to ever put pen to paper for Hollywood, it's definitely one worth checking out.
And it's funny that you mentioned Conan the Barbarian. Probably my favorite tidbit about Conan the Barbarian, fact that a lot of people don't know, is that He-Man is actually based off of Conan the Barbarian. When Conan the Barbarian came out, Mattel was going to do action figures for it. But there was a problem with them creating action figures for a movie that had nudity and violence in it. So the toy ended up changing a little bit, and that's how we ended up with He-Man.
Well, thank goodness, because I enjoyed He-Man as a child. I
Yes.
had Grayskull, Skeletor, Beastman.
Have you watched it now? Like, have you gone back and watched the original
I
80s ones?
own I think the first 2 seasons, I believe.
Animation as a child was garbage, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, pretty much. I mean,
pretty terrible.
the best stuff that I still like watching cartoons, so whatever. But the best stuff from when I was a kid was probably Thundercats. It was animated really well. As far as American animation,
Yeah.
that's the problem. Is that our American animators, unless you worked for Disney, you really had no idea what the hell you were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And I was surprised to find out we were doing, during the Oscar buzz, we were doing a lot of like Oscar trivia, kind of just sitting around talking. I was upset that Denzel got nominated and didn't win, but, I think Denzel should always win, but that's just me. And I didn't even see the movie he was in. I didn't even see Flight, and I still think he should have won. But anyway, we were talking about the person who's won the most amount of Oscars, and I did not know this, although it makes sense, is Walt Disney.
Wow, no, I didn't know that
Yeah,
either.
I think it's something ridiculous, like 38 Oscars or something like that.
But the thing of it is, though, this isn't all in just animation. This is because they have their hands in all kinds of movies.
Yes,
Is that-
yes,
okay.
yes. Yeah, oh yeah, I mean...
You'd be
he's one of the
surprised how many
most-
times Walt Disney's name's at the bottom. You're like, what?
Yeah, well, I'm fairly certain we all have like a little Disney signature somewhere on our bodies. I think Walt Disney owns us.
Yes, they do pretty much own everything.
Yeah, it's either them or Apple. Like, you either have an Apple logo on your ass or you have, like, the Disney signature on your ass. It's one of the two. Kind of like the Cabbage Patch Kids had the Xavier signature on their butts. Yeah, we're very similar. We're very close to that. All right, did you want to try and give your boy a try again, or did you want to close up shop? Up to you.
Yeah, we can go ahead and give Wayne another shot. He did message me that he would be available, so hopefully we can get him this time.
All right. We're giving him another call and seeing if we can get him on the line. And this is Wayne Schwab. I want to say Schwab, but it's not Schwab. It's Schwab. Wow. This is the worst part of having guests, isn't it?
It is.
Hello?
Wayne, hey, we've been trying to get you on the show for a little bit now. I'm glad to finally get you on here.
Oh my gosh. What's going on, Mr. Simpson?
Not too much. Andre couldn't make it in today, so you're with myself and Erica Lewis.
How you doing, Wayne?
Okay. I'm doing good, Erica. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to finally get you on here. I'm excited.
So
All right.
since we've got you on here, Wayne, we'll go ahead and jump back into MMA a little bit. I know you were at UFC 157. So what'd you think of those fights?
Those fights were great. It was a lot. It was a lot of fun. The Ronda Rousey fight was awesome, and the thing about it was, like, it was the first ever female championship fight, and at first, there wasn't that whole backlash, like, throughout the crowd. I didn't hear anybody say, "Oh, it's a girl fight." Everybody was actually pretty excited about it, and it turned out to be one of the best fights on the card. When homegirl got what's her name, Carmichael?
Carmouche. Liz Carmouche, yeah.
Carmouche took her back, and then she shrugged her off and then armbarred her, and she even said that she was going to armbar before the fight.
I mean, that's her go-to move for sure. Is that armbar? It doesn't hurt that she's a nice-looking broad on top of that. So the UFC's got to win.
No, that does not hurt at all. I feel like she's going to go the way of what was her name? The girl who was in Haywire.
Gina Carano.
Yes, I got a feeling that she's got a movie contract right around the corner.
I did hear rumors that she was getting proposals already to be in something. I can't remember. Matt, can you recall? There was something right after the fight that they wanted Ronda Rousey to be in something.
You know what? I remember them saying that, but I don't remember what it was. But I'm pretty sure she turned it down.
Well, good for her.
If I remember
Was
right.
it a late
But
night
I
movie
think
for
Wayne's probably
Showtime?
right. I mean, you see MMA people, especially with FX, are having the deal with Fox. They're getting little cameos here and there. So the UFC fighters being in movies and television, I think that's something we'll probably see a little bit more of.
Oh, she was offered a role in Hunger Games. That's what it was.
For
okay.
a role in
Yes.
Hunger Games?
Offered. Yeah, she
I'm
was
glad
offered.
I'm glad she turned it down then.
Yeah, that was
I mean,
bad.
Battle Royale was a badass movie, and then Hunger Games is like Battle Royale light.
Yes, I agree. That's what I tell everybody. I really liked Hunger Games when it was called Battle Royale.
Yeah, I don't know how they did a PG version of it. When I saw that, I was just like, that's gonna be bad.
I actually just saw it for the first time a couple weeks ago. I mean, I can see how like a 13-year-old girl would be really into it, but
Well, if you actually, I have to admit, I read the books, and the movie doesn't do the books any justice, and the ending in the books is so violent and visceral. I thought there was no way they were going to be able to pull this off with the PG. I mean, the books are way better. The third one's kind of weird, but the first and second book are actually really entertaining. And this is coming from a 36-year-old male, so it's not just a kiddie book, teenage book, but the movies are absolutely, that's what they're going for, is the Twilight crowd.
Yeah. Disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
Hey, have
So-
you guys seen this thing online called Honest Trailers?
No.
Honest movie trailers?
No.
These guys, I think these guys are the funniest thing going right now. And what they do is they take movies that suck, and they give you an honest movie trailer on them. And they did The Hunger Games, and they've done all 4 Twilights. And actually, last night I watched all 4 Twilights in a row of their honest trailers. And they tear these movies a new asshole. They did Skyfall, which I thought was great, because I thought Skyfall was terrible. It was such a bad movie.
I enjoyed Skyfall. Erica was not the biggest fan.
No, I didn't. I was not a fan of it either. But
Oh my gosh, the movie's like 3 hours long, and the fight scenes in the beginning are silhouetted, so you can't tell what's going on. But what you could tell was that the 2 stunt guys were like, they weren't making contact with each other. They were basically like dance. It was like watching Flashdance with 2 people breakdance fighting.
oh wow, you're a lot rougher on it than I am. I mean, I didn't like the movie, and I couldn't figure out if it was because I didn't like James Bond, and I think it's just that I just didn't like the movie. I think I like the concept of James Bond.
Look, I think Daniel Craig's a great Bond.
Yeah, I agree.
But his movies, Casino Royale was good. I loved it the first time. But however, though, they played movie poker, which was like 30 minutes in the middle of the movie. Movie poker sucks. So everybody slow rolls each other. Everyone's got like one hand better than the other guy. If you want to make like real life poker, you see somebody just slap the cards down and go, straight flush, motherfucker, and everyone just get pissed off, and then they take their cards and throw them at the dealer. Like, oh, dealer, you fucked me.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd watch it.
Yeah, I think that might have spiced that scene up just a little bit if Daniel Craig would have slapped his hand down, and then there was just a bunch of cussing and people throwing cards, drinks getting spilled, people getting removed from the casino.
yeah, it should have been. There's always the one guy who gets like a 15-minute timeout. It's like, you're a grown man, you just got a timeout.
What's that?
There's always some guy who gets a 15-minute timeout, and he's in his 40s.
Timeout still works, guarantee.
Pathetic, it's so pathetic. Cause I play cards out here in LA, and oh my gosh, you see all kinds of stuff.
Well, what's some? I know you've ran into some people playing cards. Why don't you tell us about that?
I've run into a lot of people. I don't know if they want me,
Well,
dropping their names.
I guess if you've got any good stories that won't get them in trouble.
There's a lot of. I mean, obviously, every celebrity out here pretty much plays poker. I'll tell you a poker-related story. I was on set. And this was before the day started, and I was working on a Lou Diamond Phillips movie. And
I'm sorry.
So, oh no, he's a great guy. He's actually one of the coolest people I've met in LA, actor-wise. And so here we go. I was young too. I was in my 20s, I was probably like 25 years old. And it's me and him, and we're at the lunch line, and we're by ourselves. There's maybe a Teamster there. And it's one of these things where there's no one around us, right? And so I have to emphasize that there's no one there except for me, him, and a Teamster. And so we start talking about poker. And he says, man, I'm from Texas, and I love playing poker. And so now I look around, there's no one there. And so I say, yeah, well, I'm from Maryland, and I love eating pussy. And I hear this, oh, and I turn around, and there's like 3 women standing right behind me.
Oh, wow.
Nice. And that started your career in the movie business.
Come come on, man. I had a moment like that. I had a moment like that the other day, and I was in a CVS, and there's no one in the CVS, right? It's me and the person behind the counter and one other person, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. There's nobody in the store. So I'm standing there, and I've got like, I got like two big things under each arm, and I'm like, oh, and I start feeling a little pressure in my stomach. And I'm looking around, there's nobody there. So I farted in CVS, and all of a sudden I hear this, "You dirty motherfucker!" I turn around, and there's this woman backing up all the way across the store, screaming at me. "You dirty motherfucker!" And she just keeps backing up, and repeating it at the top of her lungs. I'm like, oh, great.
That's nice.
Awesome.
Well, I know you've done work on Newsroom and Californication, and then most recently Dark Skies, which we discussed earlier today how horrible that was. So what are you working on right now?
I'm sorry about that. What am I working on right now? There's a show called Masters of Sex down at Sony that I rig on. And I really don't have a whole lot to tell you about it, except that's from the people that do Californication. And,
well, then we can get a pretty good general idea. I'm not a fan of Californication, but there's I know that's got a huge fan base, so I guess people will be excited to hear that they're doing something else with it.
Yeah, I mean, Californication. Well, we do 6 seasons already. They're getting ready to do season 7 this summer, right after Masters of Sex ends, and. Master Sex is going to be just as popular. People love that stuff.
Yeah, I've seen enough boobs on TV and stuff. I don't really care about any of that stuff. I like seeing stuff get blown up. I'd rather see stuff blown up all the time, and giant orcs with swords fighting each other, than a bunch of sexual innuendos.
I completely agree. Okay, when I was younger, I used to be a film snob. And my thing was, well, I want high drama. I want all this artsy crap. As I'm getting older, the only thing if I'm watching a movie and there's not a car chase, a gunfight, or like 6 or 7 major explosions, then I don't even want to watch it.
I think that there goes something with that you should make your movie entertaining. I mean, I can appreciate great cinematography and whatnot, but oftentimes it seems like they forget about that the film needs to be entertaining. And then you get all these people, these critics and stuff. They're like, "Oh, this was fantastic. The outfits were great. The dialogue was just, they really stepped it up a notch." But there was nothing entertaining that happened in the entire movie. And that's something that yes, there should be at least one car chase in every movie, and I think that would fix it. Either that or ninjas. I always say if you add ninjas to any movie, no matter how boring. I mean, if you added ninjas to the Hunger Games and let them kill everyone, it would have been a fantastic movie.
Hold on, there was a ninja in the Hunger Games, and that was that loser who paid himself like a cake.
Okay.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I went real ninjas. So I'm like Shokosugi, Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, Pray for Death type ninjas. So, but yeah. So what I know you like. You're obviously you work in film and you work with the television shows. So what are some of the shows you enjoy watching?
I think Justified is the best show on television.
That is a fantastic show. We were just talking about it earlier, and unfortunately, nobody that does the show with me stays up with Justified. So, what do you think of the season so far?
It's good. The season's good. I actually worked on seasons 1 and 2 of Justified, and doing 12-hour days on a TV show the last thing I want to do is come home and watch more TV, especially an hour-long drama, because they bore the crap out of me. But Justified is so badass that I watched season 1 and 2. Season 1 was awesome. Season 2 actually wasn't that great. But then season 3 was incredible. So I encourage people to go back if you haven't seen these seasons. And the best part, they're all standalone seasons. So you really don't, I mean, the Marshalls are the same people, but everybody else kind of keeps changing except for Walton Goggins. But, you know, everybody rotates in and out. So you might, you know, you can just start watching it. And the show's badass. I mean, he kills somebody in every episode.
He does
You
get
can't
stuck
argue
in
with that.
a lot of precarious situations where he ends up having to shoot somebody.
Another show that's absolutely hilarious is Archer, the cartoon about the spies.
Oh, I love Archer. That's my shit.
Right?
That is really my shit. Aisha Tyler is she's everybody's pretty much an amazing voice actor on that show. The show is well written and funny and inappropriate in all the right ways.
Yes. Aisha Tyler, I worked on Ghost Whisperer for the first 2 or 3 seasons. Now talk about a fucking, that show was painful to work on. We get in, Aisha Tyler was on, I think, the first season. She was a total babe. All the guys had a crush on her. And then, that show, we would show up and we'd get our one-liner. You look at it and be like, okay, well, we would always kid ourselves every day. We'd be like, oh, today, you know, we can do this in 12 hours. You know, we maybe 13. It runs a little long. We would spend 6 hours, the first 6 hours of the day, up until lunch, shooting out Jennifer Love Hewitt's one scene that was 7/8 of a page. And we'd shoot it and shoot it and shoot it and then just spend the rest, like 4.5 hours lighting her tits.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Oh, I do. I love her.
Really?
Yes.
You got a girl crush on Jennifer Love Hewitt?
Oh yeah, I do. She's hot, man.
By the way, she goes by Love.
Oh.
Well, that's pretentious.
I didn't expect that either.
What are your thoughts on? There's a couple other new shows that are out that I think you were watching: The Americans and The Following.
The Following, man. I watched like the first 2 episodes. I got 4 of them backed up on TiVo, and I really have no. I mean, I'm seriously at the point of just erasing them. I really don't care.
Really? No,
Erica,
you were watching The Following, aren't you?
No, I actually am not. I do like Kevin Bacon, and I especially
the only one
love
watching
anything
The Following,
that Kevin Bacon doesn't actually show his bacon in. So, because he seems to really love doing that. So, and I've heard it's good. I've heard it's.
I haven't like. He's kind of right. The first couple episodes were slow, and so my wife loves it. So again, I get to watch it. But it's really picked up here recently. So I don't know if I delete it yet, Wayne. You ought to check it out because, like I said, it does pick up after that 3rd episode, which the 3rd episode's another episode that's kind of like, oh, this is really kind of moving slow. But after that, it seems like it's really picking up pace. Now, have you watched The Americans?
Love The Americans.
That's a show was really excited to see do well, and it seems to be hitting some solid numbers.
Well, you know, I worked on Dark Skies with her, and Carrie Russell's a really cool girl. I'm watching The Americans. I think it was episode 2, where she kicks that dude's head through the drywall in the garage.
Yeah.
Once I saw that, I'm like, oh, this show's badass.
Yeah, no, she can definitely handle herself. There's more than one occasion where she gets to whip somebody's ass. So I've really enjoyed watching her in that, and like I said, it's really doing good numbers. So I'm sure it'll get lit up for a 2nd season. Anything else that you're into that you've been watching here lately?
She really plays a pissed off Russian pretty well.
No, she does.
Very.
She nails it. She's absolutely. As you said, she does a great job. And everybody on that set, we talked. Eric and I talked about it earlier. They really, they do a really solid job of acting and writing. And one thing that really impressed me is that because it's in the '80s, everything that they've done has been spot on in the '80s. They haven't messed up and had something that was, not from that decade. And
I've
and
noticed that
occasionally
too.
when shows do that stuff, they can slip up here or there, but everything's been, spot on from the way the cereal looks. Everything. So I was just being an '80s kid, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, they always do. You're right. They'll mess up. There'll be something like blaring obvious, like they'll do it. It'll take place in 1981, and then it'll be like a guy wearing Joey Buttafuoco pants.
No, absolutely. That's right. I want to jump back to when I met you at UFC 148. I know you talked a little bit about being into poker and whatnot. When we were at the blackjack table, that's where we met. You told me that you got to meet Don Fry, and I did as well when I was out there for 148. Pretty interesting guy. So, what was your experience from meeting him?
We haven't mentioned what hotel we were at, right?
No, we haven't.
All right, we probably shouldn't do that because I get free rooms from them, and if I bag on them, I don't want them to revoke my room privileges.
Yeah, they give you pretty cheap rooms as it is. So yeah, let's leave them out of this.
Because the place is kind of it's not the Cosmopolitan.
No, it's not.
Let's leave it at that. It's definitely a step above the La Quinta Inn.
Barely, but yes, it's way off the strip. So
yeah, what do you call it? So it was Sunday night, and I had been playing cards for the whole week, and I've been jumping between two hotels, basically staying for free. And so Sunday night they've got a sushi joint in the hotel we were at. Excuse me. So I go in there. Now it's Sunday. You're not supposed to eat sushi on Sundays, right? Sundays and Mondays.
yeah,
Because the fish houses are closed on the weekends. So the fish come Sunday is basically showed up on Friday. And then the fish, especially on Monday morning, all that is the stuff from Sunday that they really have to get rid of. So Monday morning is even more scary than Sunday night. But I figure I'm in the desert, so eating sushi in the desert, I don't think it really matters what day it is at that point in time. So anyways, I go into the sushi joint, and I sit at the bar, and there's a couple people to my left, and one of them turns out to be Don Fry. And I look over, and I'm like, yeah, that's gotta be him. So I called the waitress over, and I sent him over a beer and a sake. And so he just came over, and we started chit chatting, became fast friends, and then we hung out, ate some sushi, and drank some booze, and then we went to the pit and started rolling dice and playing the pit games. Of course, we lost our ass.
Yeah, but Don Fry is something else. He's he's definitely a friendly guy. Anybody you can walk up to him, and that's the way with a lot of these fighters. They're really approachable. But Don he's a special kind of guy. That guy is he's one in a million.
He told me a hilarious story about because he does stunt work, and he was working on a show with Tom Sizemore and Randy Couture. And the scene was Tom Sizemore. I don't know if you guys know. Everybody, I'm pretty sure your listeners know who Tom Sizemore is. But I actually worked on a TV show called Robbery Homicide Division in the early 2000s, and we got canceled because Tom Sizemore beat up his girlfriend. we all lost our jobs on Monday. He beat her up on Saturday. Come Monday, we showed up to work, and they said, everybody get your stuff, get it off the trucks, go home, everyone's fired, show's over. So because of that, I can talk all kinds of shit about Tom Sizemore that I want to. So this
I don't think
asshole-
anybody would care if you talked shit about Tom Sizemore anyway.
Oh, God, what a dick. So this guy, so Fry tells me that, so they're doing a scene, and what do you call it? I guess he's supposed to clock him, and so Fry falls on his back, and then whatever happens. So he clocks him, stun punch. That doesn't really hit him. He falls to his back, and then he said Tom Sizemore stood over top of him and hauled off and slapped him in the face as hard as he could. It was like a Charlie Murphy True Hollywood Story with Rick James. He slaps him,
That's fantastic.
Him in the face. He slaps him in the face, and Don Fry says he looks over at Randy Couture, who just starts cracking up. He's like, okay. So when they do take two, he says he goes into, because he works Tom Sizemore with like some body blows, and then he comes back with the right cross. So he comes in and actually like rolls him right in the ribs, and he goes, oh, he says Tom Sizemore falls over. But the thing is, that's fine and dandy, but he's telling me this story in the sushi restaurant, and when he tells me this story, he full-blown racks me in the ribs. Right? So he's completely flashbacking on this story. He's like, yeah, so also I'm like, oh, boom. And I go, oh, Fry. And I'm looking at him. I've got a few in me, So he takes two steps up to me. He's like, all right, man, let's do it again. And I grab the bar stool and I pick it up. I say, you take one more step, and this is going over your head. And then after that, me and him became chums.
Nice. Well, Wayne, we appreciate you coming on the show. We'll definitely have to have you on again sometime. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
No. What's a shout out, man? Do people still do that?
Yeah, people do still give shout outs to people. It still happens.
Oh yeah? I don't know. No, I don't think anyone's really earned a shout out just yet.
Okay. All right. Well, Wayne, thanks for coming on the show, man. We really appreciate it. And like I said, we'll talk again sometime soon.
All right, great. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Talk to you again.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that was Wayne Swab, everybody. I think that we can wrap the show up now, Erica. Andre is hopefully going to have his internet back up, and so next weekend we won't be on Sunday, but hopefully we'll be able to do maybe a show Monday night and get back with you guys. But as always, across the pond wants to thank Fight Fans Radio and Erica for stepping in for Andre, being that he is still having problems with his interwebs. And that's it, fellas. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, for letting me step in. It was fun, and we should have Pop Heavy back up and running here soon. So thanks to everyone, and Andre, get your shit together.